All right, let's do this while I still have some daylight to play with. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Subagels. I am Subag. Thank you guys for checking out the channel and this video. And of course, I got to do my due diligence. Please like, subscribe, comment, hit the hype icon. I don't even know. I think YouTube does hype now, but definitely like, definitely subscribe. It will for sure help me, and I will be forever grateful for it. So, uh, thank you guys for tapping in, and let's just start. PlayStation is killing physical games. And this bombshell came on July 1st, 2026, where via PlayStation's Twitter account and via the PlayStation blog post, they posted that starting January 2028, PlayStation will no longer be producing physical games. And this comes off of a pretty rough year for the video games industry, if we're being honest, where Xbox and PlayStation and even Valve and Nintendo are all kind of just trading blows, dropping negative news or price increases or studio closures. And I guess it all kind of culminated into this, where PlayStation has decided to take out take out like Old Yeller, take out in the back these physical games, and it just sucks. But I guess I'm not really seeing people explain the why as to why they're doing this, and I'm not here to be a corporate cheerleader or anything, but I'm here to explain you guys the why as to why Sony might be deciding to kill physical games for good starting January 2028. Shout out to Sir Toto on Twitter. He has a very great breakdown for the digital sale cuts and the physical sale cuts for both third-party published game and first-party published games. I'll probably put the picture up right here, and you guys can obviously see it as I talk about it. But for a digital sale of a third-party published game, assuming that the price of the game is $70, right? The store will get a 30% cut, so that equals to around $21. And then the publisher or developer, or if you're an indie developer, the developer of the game will get $49. So that's for a digital sale, right? For a digital sale of a first party published game, so a digital sale of a game that Sony themselves make and publish, they don't obviously take any store cuts. So it's $0 for the store cut, and they'll get all of that $70. So if you spend $70 on Ghost of Yote on the PlayStation Store, Sony or SIE gets all of that. They don't share a cut with nobody. But for a physical game, and this is for a first party published game, let's just say for Ghost of Yote, $70. The retail store cut is 30%, so $21. Same as the digital store cut for a PlayStation. The licensing fee is 15%, but if it's a first-party published game, then obviously there's not going to be any licensing fees. Unless it's like a Marvel game, which can get a little dicey, and Sony does pay the licensing fees for like Spider-Man and like Wolverine. Like Microsoft pays the licensing fees for making a game like Indiana Jones. The manufacturing percentage is around 5%. So that is manufacturing the boxes, manufacturing the discs, manufacturing the little papers and pamphlets that go into that. That is around 5%. So around a $3.50 fee. And the publisher gets around $45.50. So $45.50. And so that's for Ghost Yote, right? Let's break it down again. Ghost Yote, $70. The retail store gets $21. The manufacturing sets aside around $3.50. And the publisher gets around $45.50 for the game, which is almost half of 70, right? So what can we deduce of this? And obviously, if it's a third-party published game that's selling physically, there's even more cuts that get taken out from that. But Why? Why is Sony doing this? After all of that explanation, right? Sony is doing this because it saves them money. They don't need to take a retail store cut. They don't need to give a cut to Walmart and Best Buy and GameStop and Target and Costco, right? They don't need to do the licensing fees for the games. So let's just say it's a third party published game. They don't need to pay a fee to the third party publisher. So they don't need to pay a fee to EA and all of that. And then manufacturing. They don't need to manufacture these games. It's digital. It's on the digital storefront. There is nothing to manufacture there. So, TLDR, this is a cost-cutting measure for Sony. They are cutting their costs. They are reducing how much they have to put up for these games. And it's going to save them money in the long run. And this is a crazy dichotomy because after this news dropped, Sony's share prices went up. So it's just crazy because what's good for the consumer is bad for the business, and what's bad for the business is good for the consumer. And we're just kind of living in such a upside down, flip-floppy ass world, and that just is really sad. And something's got to change, man. Something's got to change. Anecdotally, for me, I know physical games can be found for much cheaper than digital games. Just last Black Friday or Black Friday season, I bought KCD 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, AC Shadows, and Battlefield 6 physically for PlayStation, and I got them all for around 20 bones each. So in total, around $60 for 3 games. And I know digitally, I could have probably gotten some deals for those games, but it definitely wouldn't have been as good of a deal as what I actually got. So that's one negative for us consumers. Another one is less choice. It gives us less options to buy these games. We can't go onto eBay and search for used games. We can't go into GameStop and look for used games. We can't go into people's, yard sales and stuff like that and browse for deals anymore if Sony kills physical games. So that's another negative, is we're going to lose a lot of that additional access to these games. Another thing that sucks is I'm thinking about I'm also thinking about me younger, me thinking of when I was younger as a kid. I got to wake up and I finally got that game that I've been asking for. And that joy of unsealing the package and opening the game and seeing what's inside the games that we get, whatever goodies we got, whether that be like a map or instruction booklet or anything, that's a core memory for me. Even now, when I do still get physical games, and shout out to Nintendo because Splatoon Raiders coming out soon, I'm copping that physically. But even now, when I open games, I get such a rush of nostalgia from it. It feels like that childhood whimsy is back, at least for a brief moment. I know it's just an act of opening a game, but I feel like it's a key memory and it's special and it should be kept sacred, for generations to come. They should be able to have that feeling and have that nostalgia and have that whimsy of finally getting a game that they've been really waiting for and physically seeing it, that physical presence. And that ties into the next point that I have is when you go into a store and you see that physical presence for these PlayStation games, that's actual mind share. That's literal mind share. You're seeing the brand, you're seeing it, you're witnessing the brand. And losing that physical presence, whether that be on people's shelves or in store shelves, is slowly but surely is losing that mind share. And eventually, once that mind share is gone, you'll have a brand that feels very hollow and feels very empty. And that's another long-term ramification that maybe Sony is not really thinking about. They're not thinking about the fact that when you go into a store and you see the aisle full of PlayStation games, that resonates with people, that means something to people, that gives the brand a little bit more of that oomph, a little bit more cachet. People seeing it, it's not just digital. And yeah, uh, I'm sure that there's a lot more I can talk about. Thinking about all the parents that bust their ass to get their kids these games, and to see the joy on the kids' faces. I'm sure that's such a great memory for an adult to have too. For a parent to go through, and that's a memory that they're also going to be missing out on, and that also just sucks. But as for what can we do about this, what can we do? Sony already is repurposing these manufacturing plants for these physical games into like being like optical lens plants and stuff like that. So they're gonna be making other shit. So they're repurposing these factories already. So that tells me that there really isn't nothing that we can really do, and Sony is kind of stuck in this course that they've taken, and um, it kind of just makes sense because I'm sure the PS6 and the PS6 handheld are going to be full digital consoles anyways. So, yeah, unfortunately, this decision was inevitable. However, sad it may be, and however angry people may get over it, unfortunately, it just seems like this is just the way that they were going to always go, and they just kind of fast tracked it, and it sucks. So, for what can we do? Age old saying, cliche at this point, but vote with your wallets. Vote with your wallets. Buy as many physical games as you possibly can, or if you want. And especially considering that after this takes place, the cost of those games that you already have will probably skyrocket. So your game collection might cost a little bit more after January 2028. And especially that last PlayStation game that's going to be published physically, that's probably going to be worth a shit ton. So definitely keep an eye out on that. But yeah, coming off the back of GTA 6 having a code in the box, maybe this was just going to be the inevitable, and it just fucking sucks. But the data is skewed. The data is definitely skewed. You can obviously pinpoint specific data points and stuff like that, but the data doesn't take into account heart and soul and love. So definitely always keep that in mind. And yeah, trusting on the data and acting upon that data isn't always a surefire right answer. And we see, with me doubling back on the mindshare things, Xbox has pulled out of retailers slowly but surely, and we've seen that play out with the fans losing that love for that brand too. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame. And I hope something happens. But hopefully, I give you guys a little bit of clarity on why Sony might be doing this. TLDR, it's a cost cutting measure. It's a cost cutting measure for them, and it doesn't benefit us. So no one should be defending this. Everyone should be going at Sony for this, and especially voicing their displeasure, as I am. And physical media forever. I'll keep supporting it until they stop doing it. I mean, I still buy vinyls and stuff, so physical media forever. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day. And I love you guys. Peace out.